Life is starting. And we're live, finally. You are joining us for our very first Moyet Moments live stream, and in the time-honoured tradition of the podcast, this live stream may contain swearing. I'm Steve Coates-Dennis, and I'm delighted to welcome Alison Moyet. Too far.
So seriously rolled in. It was like, yeah, I was about to start swearing just then.
Yes.
What is going on?
Would you like to have a quick swear just to get one out of the way?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm going to save it for special.
Oh, people online
Yeah.
can probably do a sweepstake about what minute you'll do your first swear.
And what special word?
Exactly. We've had so many questions set in, and thank you for everyone that's done so.
Yeah,
we'll try our best to get through as many as we possibly can, so let's plunge in with the first.
I also just want to sort of say now,
Yes.
if I'm looking a bit weird, it's just because all I can see is a picture of me, which is like really strange, talking to myself like that, so I'm doing this a bit like that. I'm going to try and think it's not me that I'm talking at.
So you can either look at that, or you can look at me reading things off paper.
That's upsetting, isn't it? It's like, look at me when you're talking to me.
I'll do one eye squint.
Fair dues.
Okay, first question has come from Jay in London. If someone had never heard your work before, what one album and which single song would you want them to listen to first to hear you at your very best?
Oh, jeez. I mean, that's a great question, but it's a difficult question. That really is a difficult question that I would have liked to have reflected on, because you know there's something in all the albums, and there's that would be significant to me. When I've spoken to you about it, what do I normally say about something like that? Because I don't listen to myself a great deal, do I?
No, I don't either.
No, I'm trying to think.
This house you definitely love.
I really
Can't say it like I mean it. So am I.
Yeah,
They're all up there just now.
well, yeah, Can't Say It, I think, is a really significant song for me. Funny enough, you know, it's like some of the songs on The Turn are my most important songs, even though the recordings aren't necessarily the thing that held it together for me. That's too difficult. It's like asking to choose between your children, even when they're the children only the mother can love. You see?
And also, I guess
It was a good question, but that was tricky.
it depends what mood you're in each day as well.
Pardon?
It depends what mood you're in. How you greet
No,
the day.
not for me. It doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't depend on my mood, because I don't really. I don't listen to myself. So then it becomes how deep I can feel it when I'm playing it live. You know.
Yeah.
And then obviously live work. Sorry, I'm really starting off on this. It is because there was a big wait, and I started going a bit losing myself a bit. So I need to gather myself back again.
Let's go to Patrick in California.
Hello, Patrick.
These Moyet moments have gone into wonderful detail about all of Alison's albums. My question is, were there ever any hoped for collaborations with a producer or with a songwriter or a fellow musician that maybe went past the "oh, that's a great idea" discussion stage but never happened?
My problem is that I get really intimidated by greatness, and so when someone's, you know, I go into that natural default if I really admire or respect someone, thinking that they won't want to work with me. That's kind of the place that I fall into, and then of course it's I don't know who I'm going to be when I wake up in the morning, you know, and it's if you catch me in the right mood, I say yes to anything, and not in the right mood, and I say no. And so a couple of times there have been some really good collaborations offered to me, and the reason I'm not going to name them now is that I didn't do them the honour of sometimes even replying, because I get this kind of communication anxiety, or answering in the affirmative, and so it feels like a really wrong thing for me to enjoy the association now. It would be a bit like, you know, I'm name dropping them when I wasn't decent enough to reply. Yeah. So yes, there have been some really, really interesting offers by some really great people that I have talked myself out. More often than not, I pretend I've not seen the message, because it terrorises me so much. That tends to be what happens.
Daniel in Madrid, very international,
Lovely.
asks, on the podcast you talked a lot about the breakdown of your relationship with Sony, But something that wasn't mentioned was that your singles album, released at the time, was actually a sizable hit. Number 1, I think, says Daniel. He's correct.
Although it has to be said, I mean, obviously I was really... What's that noise? Oh, that's so silly. It's so silly. Someone left the phone on and it wasn't me.
I know what I mean.
And that's what the pleasure is it wasn't me. Normally that would be me, but it wasn't me. So what was I saying though?
You were talking about this, and the question wasn't over. Daniel in Madrid was wondering how it felt at the time that
the
singles
singles.
got to number 1.
So what I say?
I've not finished the question.
No, but I remember it from last time. I remember what you said.
No, but I've not finished reading it.
Oh, well, could be compact then. Not you, Daniel. It's just him. He's just splitting up and taking punctuation where it doesn't need to be.
And wondering why it didn't help more with your relationship with Sony at the time. The key part of the question. See, you jumped too soon.
And miss all this. Now something beautiful happens. Well, yes, yes and no. So, it was it was a brilliant thing. It did really, really well. However, it's a singles album, so they've already had all the promotion on that. The radio stations have already played most of those songs to death. Hence, they were hits, and so it's not a big marketing sell for them. All they need to do is kind of advertise it, and there's going to be, it's going to appeal to a broad audience, not just to truly key fans, but people who go, oh, I liked that song. And so they'll get that album, but they know full well that's not then going to translate into working new material, because then you still get the same problem of taking new songs to the radio and they say that's not an Alison Moyet record. And you go, yeah, do you know what an Alison Moyet record is? Because I made it. But they don't buy that. They have an idea of who you are and they stick with that. So they would have been delighted about it. And also, you've got to remember, you're talking about a relationship with a record company on the ground level. The people that I had to work with, people who are kind of like your pluggers or I can't even remember the names. It's been such a long time since I did. Not the names of the people, but the names of the jobs. There was plenty of people there that I really liked, but they weren't in the ultimate position of power. So when the big people want to drop you, it doesn't matter how much they like you or they don't like you. It's
a done deal.
It's just a done deal, and then it's the same for them. They all lose their jobs too.
Yeah.
It's sad, isn't it? I'm not being sarcastic. I'm just saying that's
is.
life, isn't it? It's kind of that's the way it goes.
Andrew Hillary, from Brandon in County Durham, says, how do you go from the basic language of your early hits to your current songs where we need to Google at least 2 or 3 words of the meaning? He adds, could be down to my own education.
Oh, bless you. Well, my husband, he always takes the piss out of me. He's always saying that I'm like a Tudor. I go to the thee, thou, thus. Do you know what it is? Actually, probably it's because I'm not well read. I'm not well read at all, and but I suppose kind of listening to my mother always kind of used those words, and also because nursery rhymes and old, not the kind of modern, he's got a bum, isn't that fun, that kind of poetry that's done for children now, but the real kind of really old antiquated nursery rhymes that used a more complicated language, where language wasn't kind of changed for children. That was really significant for me. Yeah, so I don't know, they've just kind of like, they've just certain words sat, but be comforted by the fact that I can't spell them, and neither do I know where to put the commas and the full stops. So I am an idiot savant.
Do you have a favourite word?
Idiom.
Do you have a favourite word that you've used?
No.
There's a word that I learned from you.
Oh yeah?
Bitumen.
Ah.
From All Signs of Life.
Yeah.
I never knew what that meant.
It's like tar, isn't it?
Yeah.
On the roads. But then you didn't grow up in a new town.
This is true.
Well, we saw a lot of that going down quite a bit.
Simon Clark from London.
Hello, Simon.
You are 5 days away from releasing your 10th solo album. It's called Key, in case anyone has missed our campaign. How are you feeling at this 11th hour?
Well, I'm still coming down from the anxiety that we didn't go live. I don't know. I'm someone that I live very much in the day. I don't really buy in to excitement or expectation. For me, it's about what I'm doing this minute, and that's the minute that I occupy. So when the release happens, I'll go, oh, it's released, and then I will be Homer Simpson and see some DIY that needs fixing. I don't really stay in kind of one thought for very long anymore.
Just a reminder, Moyet Moments is live. Thank you for tuning in. And if you're sitting there thinking, I should have submitted a question, you still can. Post it on Alison Moyet's Facebook or Twitter with the hashtag Moyet Moments Live, and Georgie and Robin will ferry them into the question pile.
With their phones off.
Yes. We'll just give a dirty look over there. We won't name which one it was,
No.
but I'm married to him. Stephen Cooper from Poole. What has been your favourite Moyet Moment? Podcasts have been great to listen to, by the way.
I don't know. I don't have a specific one, because another thing to remember is that when we were doing them, a lot of them were on the same day. So, you know, we were kind of doing long days. We were just chatting. I think what I've really liked about doing the podcast is to be in control of my own language, you know, and the fact that I've done it with Steve. And so the great thing, there's a couple of reasons why it's great doing with Steve. One is that he remembers my career so much better than I do, which is a real boon, because otherwise without him I'd just be going, I can't remember quite a lot. And so it's great to have those kind of triggers. I think it's also been quite fresh, because we forget there's anybody listening. I'm sorry, but you two have got to stop doing this in the background. Honestly, they're being big wankers. They are wankers.
They are.
First word.
There we go.
They're just doing a lot of sign language, and it's in my eyes. And that's got to stop.
That is really disgraceful.
That's
Look,
to stop.
I'm even keeping eye contact today.
Quite right. Jesus. So,
Taylor Swift wouldn't get this.
Taylor Swift wouldn't get this, would she? She wouldn't. That wouldn't be a problem for her at all. What were we talking about, though? This is the other good thing about Steve, is that you'll tell me, oh no, and he can't. He's shuffling papers. He's shuffling papers.
No, because it was the last question.
No, so what was great about Steve? No, what's about do the podcast?
Podcast, favourite Moyet Moment.
Yeah. So what I've really liked about it is the fact that there's sometimes that I'm forgetting that I'm doing a podcast for other people to listen to, and so we fall into sort of like mate chat, albeit it's all about me, which is, you know, that's kind of like really egotistical mate chat. Come on, let's talk about me. So that's been great, and the other thing is I found it doesn't, honestly, it's like when you do interviews, I'd say 8 times out of 10, and there are a couple of times you do an interview and the person is really focusing on the work, and you feel like there's such a joy, such gratitude, because half the time it's just like, and I've actually had them say to me, tell us a time about when you've what was it,
crashed and
burned, or they want to talk about my body, which is like, for fuck's sake, you know what I mean, I'm 63, when does that end, you know? So the nice thing about doing this is that we can talk about the things that interest us with the language, and without, you know, anybody saying you can't talk about this, although that's a bit of a lie, because Georgie does say to me sometimes over there,
we have to take a couple of bits
don't
out.
Talk about that. And then she's put it in my brain, and so I talk about it. That's what happens.
The next question is from H, from Whitchurch, presumably not H from Steps. Oh, it's a she. She asks, are there any particular songs you wanted to rework for Key but didn't, or that you did rework but didn't make it onto the album?
Right, so there's no songs that we did rework and didn't make it onto the album, but yeah, there are lots of songs I would have liked to have recorded. You know, it's it's a funny one, because I mean, well, first of all, it's 40 years, so I have to represent the whole of that period, including hits which, you know, are very important for me. But as you can imagine, I've done them lots of times, and so in that sense, it's not like it doesn't feel like a treat to me. You know, I said before about there being some songs on the turn that are really important to me, and I really didn't feel had been given a life that I believe in, you know. And it was, I did feel like it was only like me and one or two other people that did believe in it. But that, you know, it was a period of my career where, you know, people aren't I'm not talking about hard supporters, but the media, the record company are not interested, and because they don't smell a radio hit, you know, they don't rate it. And it's amazing how many people imagine that good work is just the stuff that is going to appeal to lots and lots of people. And of course, it's lovely when everybody gets into what you do, but it can't be the purpose. It can't be the reason why you make it. Otherwise you're second guessing everything, and you end up with something that's so flatulent that it's just, you know, it's just pointless. So yeah, there are a lot of songs on the turn that I would have liked to have done, and there's also the fact that on this album, whilst they're all, you know, key songs, they're not all the key songs. I mean, you know, like I've spoken about this before, but the aesthetics of Home Time and of the records I did with Guy Sigsworth. So the later stuff, which is kind of more in line with the aesthetic that I've arrived at as an old lady, there was less reason to do that, because all of this has been about pulling the songs together to make a cohesive set, and that it wasn't a karaoke. And a lot of those songs are already in a place where they've been recently revised, so they didn't need to be looked at. So no songs were left off that we did record, because as it was, I mean, Jesus, that was, I mean, how many songs on that?
It's 16 reworkings and 2 brand new songs.
Yeah, and so you can imagine, for me, it's like, you know, it was singing, it was a long time, but for Sean, who was producing it and arranging it, it was like, that was a gargantuan task. You know, it's a really big ask to have to be concentrating that hard for so long. I mean, I think by the time that he got to the end, he was ready to say, "Fuck off, Moyet! I've had it with you right up to here." You know, and I wouldn't have blamed him. You know, it is hard to, you know, we both are big hyper focusers. we do that. We both of us kind of go into these real kind of holes of like serious concentration. So it's never, you know, we're not the sort of type of people that would do it and then sort of like just pop out for tea or have a weekend off. It's like when I'm in it, and nothing else gets a look in. So yeah, I mean that many songs already was a big ask of him and of me, even though I asked it of myself.
It's a gift. It's a gift.
It's a gift.
Do you know one of the things I love about doing the podcast?
What do you love about the podcast?
Is the fact that I've seen so many fans say, I never listened to the turn at the time, and because of the podcast, because you're passionate about talking about it, they've gone to revisit it.
Oh, have they? Bless them.
I know, that's cool, isn't it?
It's just like I say, you know, as with all albums, there's you know, might be one or two you want to skip, you know, but that's kind of standard. But but there are some really good songs that, you know, even to the point I think, you know, it's like I could never get them away because I'm an old lady, and you never get that kind of interest in you. But you know, I would love for them. I'd love for them to be covered.
And Alison answers many more questions about the making of Key on Key Moyet Moments Edition, which is out on Friday. I just thought I'd mention
Is
that.
it out Friday?
It's on Friday, the Key Moyet
I keep
Moments
getting asked
Edition.
that, and oh, the edition thing?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
on
not
Friday.
the album. Is the album out?
Album out on Friday.
Oh, they're both out on Friday,
Yeah, both on Friday.
They're both out on Friday. Yeah.
Caroline from Ludwigsburg in Germany says, first I will thank you for staying more 40 years by my side with your songs, your lyrics, and more with your personality and humour.
Oh, that's nice.
She says, are there any plans to present your fine arts to the public?
Well, plans no, intentions perhaps. You know, it's been a case of, it's kind of made me laugh how a couple of people have gone 7 years in between albums and you've done re-recording, you lazy bin. And it's like, jeez, you've got no idea you've got no idea the hours I've been working, you know, because it's literally, I did the degree at university. And the very next week I'd gone into writing and then straight into recording and then, you know, working on the artwork and working on the lyric videos, and it's just, he's looking the other way and it's put me off.
No,
that's put me off.
But I need to pick up the live questions that are coming in.
Yeah, but I haven't finished. Okay. I haven't literally the dead question yet. What was I talking about? You've even made me lose that. That's what happens.
You were talking about your fine arts and how it's an intention, not a...
Okay, so at least act like you're interested in the answer. So
I'm listening.
I would like to get down. What I was saying is, yes, I would like to. I need to get back to printing, but I have not had a day. I have had a day off. I had a 7-day holiday 2 weeks ago, which was wonderful. But that's the first proper holiday we've had since before COVID. So yeah, I will. I would like to get to that state, but also I am vain, and I am hard on myself, as my tutors have said. You're so hard on yourself. I know I am. But who else is going to be this hard on me? And you know, when you've worked at kind of a level where I've been kind of really trying to keep that level of my craft and the music going up, and I'm very aware that I'm still an ingenue when it comes to art, and when you do study art and you see so much brilliance around you just existing without a platform, it's very humbling. And so I do it does sit uncomfortably, the idea that I can get seen because I'm a singer, and so I struggle with that. I struggle with that guilt, the fact that it was my earliest love and earliest ambition, with the fact that it's my latest acquisition of a modicum of skills. And I don't want to be an also ran because she was on the telly. That is always going to worry me.
We've got some live questions that
live questions now. But, hope you kept your eye on them.
I can't even tell you what they're going to be because
you're terrified.
Yeah, so I've not even looked at this now.
Okay.
John Taylor on Twitter says, do the masters of the original version of the Essex album still exist? And if so, will we ever get to hear the original of those songs? Kiss.
Well, do you know, that's a question we've been asked so many times, and they've got to be somewhere. But I don't know. But then also, I don't know if you remember ever hearing about when I moved from my last house before I went to Brighton, where I just trashed everything because there was so much stuff. What I do is every few years, because I get intimidated by how much I haven't read my mail or answered things, what I do is I go. It's a bit like when I have salt on my food. When I have salt on my food, because I love salt, and I put salt, and I think if I don't look at it, I can pretend I'm not still doing it. So it's a bit like that with my computer. So what I do with that is I feel overwhelmed, so overwhelmed with guilt and shame and worry and stress. I go, delete. Oh, did I just clean my whole computer? And not even because of bad pictures, because I don't have any bad pictures, but somebody else might do it for bad pictures. I do it for bad practice because I don't get things done. So there's a really big possibility that the masters got trashed with all of my other stuff when I just had that I shall trash everything and travel lighter. Having said that, in my house, and I've not listened to it yet, I did find a cassette. No, but I only had the name on the outside, and I haven't got around to listening to it yet. But it's possibly on there. If it is, fuck me, it's not had a case on it, and it's going to have serious dust. So it could be like one of those, like, you know, those old records. It could be like that going on. I don't know, and it might not be on there at all. I might have wiped over it and put something else on.
No, raise people's expectations.
No. I'm just. They should have no expectations from that. So all of us. I mean, Pete Leonard should have had a copy somewhere, but you know. So it's like something's just happened, isn't it? It's like it was meant to.
And Sony had nothing. They had mislabeled tons of things that I listened to. Listened to Bananarama tracks. I listened to. I think it was Tori Hadley or somebody very loud.
And
it was just, but not.
Well, it's kind of like the old BBC, isn't it? When they had all those kind of great things that they just
wiped.
And it's like when we did Yazoo, we did actually have some other tracks that we'd recorded, but because we were working to such a tight budget on the downtime, and you know, we had like a reel or two of tape to work on, that when we needed more tape, we just had to wipe over the stuff that we'd done. So
do you remember anything of those songs?
I do.
Oh.
I do remember a couple.
And?
Well, I'm not going to tell you.
Oh,
it's private. But I mean, no, it's funny. It's like private. I did have that kind of. I had a remarkable musical memory then, and I can remember melody, word for word, a song that Vince wrote that he just played to me on the guitar. He played it a couple of times on the guitar, and they said no. So we never went into, recording or anything like that. But for him playing it, it's there. I remember it word for word.
Go and hum a bar.
No, because that's his work, and if he'd wanted it out there, he'd put it out. So I'm nothing if not honourable.
Omar from Facebook, it's a question that's coming up. So you paying attention?
Sorry, I was just seeing what all the miscreants were doing to remind us.
Have you been inspired by a supernatural experience to write one of your songs? That's Omar on Facebook.
Have I I can't remember because sometimes things happen that start occurring. Look, you lot are shut up. Honestly,
let's turn the camera around.
I was like,
and
shall we do that and let them know, because then actually they see the mess I've made at the bottom of the table. Let's not turn the camera around. But so it's possible, because something starts the kernel and it doesn't, so it starts growing from one grain of wheat that and then goes on to something else. You can forget it. But there are there were a couple of songs like fuck's sake. Honestly, it's
she's a manager.
Do you know what? I reckon they're all sort of like rolling on towards menopause, and you wouldn't know it, would you? You wouldn't know it. No. Enough now, children.
It's rare that we are the most professional ones in the room, isn't it?
So rare. So rare. No, I'm very professional when I'm working.
Yes.
Just not necessarily cohesive. Omar, I was talking to.
Yes,
do
Omar.
you know how fantastic it is that I remembered that name? Not because I remembered your name, but because I don't remember names. And so when I do, so that might have been a kind of a magical moment.
Oh.
Well, it could have been, couldn't it? Because that's really unusual for me. And but I suppose Filigree was was kind of a moment of revelation when I wrote that song, because and please forgive me, anyone who's listening to this is probably people that have listened to stuff I've said, which is fantastic, but I'll be repeating that story. But it was about going into a cinema and seeing a film and being like really bored because of the narrative. Oh, I don't want to watch this, like that. And then right at the end of the film, when people asked me what film it was actually in fact The Tree of Life, which was very beautiful. But for me, beauty lies in words. That's where beauty lies. And so it's like even, which is strange, things I've done visual art, but then it's not like my visual art is beautiful. But that doesn't. I'm not that bothered by visual beauty, but words. I get really, really moved by it. But it was visual, I suppose. It was a visual moment. It was a visual moment of words. It was words in a visual moment. And sorry, you really want to get me off this, don't you? So anyway, at the end of that film, there was a kind of like it was a magical moment that I was really moved by. So many words to say nothing.
Such beauty.
Such beauty, Omar.
Keep your questions and comments coming in on Facebook page and Twitter if anyone's still out there.
Yeah.
Actually, let's find out how many people are listening, if you don't mind. Back to the questions emailed in. Questions if there's no one and we're just chatting.
I'm sorry. Listen. You want the authentic person coming to work with this? Is it? I'm afraid.
Oh, 182.
Is that good?
That's good.
It's great.
You might have dropped some in that last answer. But anyway.
Yeah, I did. Probably dropped
Mike Cookson Taylor from Godalming. This is questions that has been messaged in. What is the background of how you joined AHA on their Unplugged Summer Solstice? He adds, you and Morton Harkett sound absolutely sublime on Summer Moved On.
Well, thank you. I don't remember what trigger. I don't remember what set it off, but I know that I would have been asked, obviously, as opposed to the fact that I just go, would you like me to come on your special? I don't do that. So I would have been asked, but it was, as I explained earlier, being caught in the right frame of mind, an open frame of mind. And they'd given me a selection of a couple of songs, and there was something about that song that I found really charming. But beyond that, it was like it was a very strange experience, because we were there for the shortest time, one night or 2 nights, but I was flying into, no, it would have been one night, wasn't it? It might have been one night. No, it was 2 nights. So we'd flown in the night before, and the airline lost all my luggage, and I really was looking rough, because that's how I tend to be if I don't have to make an effort. So really not presentable to go on the telly. So that was a bit anxiety making. I had no luggage when I got there, and then the next day it was going straight to this TV setup. I mean, the country is just amazingly beautiful. It's like astonishing. You get so used to going places and things are, everywhere starting to look the same, but it was one of those places that still had an otherness, a really ethereal, beautiful otherness to it. So lovely. But to go to this place, and they all had their kind of heads on, they were already in kind of working mode. And I think he was having trouble with his monitors, so he wasn't open to me, and I can understand that, because when I'm in that kind of workspace, that happens to me sometimes. But he was really like this, so it was like very strange to walk onto this stage with people you don't know, have not met, have never sung with, and because he was having trouble with his monitors, I didn't end up getting any sound check time because he needed it, and so it was like a really, it was quite a raw, anxiety-filled experience. But I've got good at doing that. Yeah, but inside I'd have been
It sounded brilliant in the end, though.
well, it was and yeah, it's a lovely song, and
It's got melancholy to
yeah,
it,
which suits me, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I like a bit grim.
Emma Walter, not Emma, Emma, in Surrey writes, Dearest Alison, thank you for this opportunity. I would like to ask what album you have recently bought, or loved, or have on repeat. Thanks, your loyal fan, Emma. Or Emma, if I'm just mispronouncing it.
Well, I don't listen to music, and I say that uncomfortably because it's one of those things that often people assume there's no authenticity to the way that you engage with music. But the person I am, I was saying to you before about the one that engages with the day, with the minute. It's what I'm doing. It's what's happening here with me, which is why, like I say, I don't even listen to myself afterwards. When I was younger, obviously it played a big part in my life. But like, for example, this is a story my husband really likes, which is when I was like about 12, I was learning to play the oboe, and I was in doing chamber music. A chamber music session, but one of the problems that I found as an instrumentalist, especially as an oboe player, where you have to kind of hold your lips really tight, is that harmony would make me smile. It would make me so happy. My face would break into a smile, which meant that my mouth lost all contact with the ring. So music is something that kind of happens to me accidentally. But I'm all about the audiobooks at the moment, so it's again words. That kind of gets me. I think there was a time that it changed for me slightly, and that was when early days when I got injuncted. I don't know if I'm looking at me, and actually maybe I should be doing that because I'm just looking at your chest, so I can only apologise. But when I got injuncted, and so there was that period that I couldn't work for a year when music had been my everything, that it became so painful I couldn't listen to it because it just physically hurt me to listen to music, because it was like the pain of hunger. It was like having to look at a feast that you weren't allowed to partake of, and that left a residue for me. Something happened then, something broke at that point where listening to music or taking music as my pleasure it hurt too much. Maybe that's so much why, when I look at music, it's so much more about introspection than about celebration, because music stopped being about celebration for me, and it started being, a confession. That did sound profound. Afterwards I'm standing back going, oh, Alison, listen to you. But it is the truth.
David Varconnier from London, I hope you pronounced his name correctly, has asked, what has been your strangest fan encounter?
I suppose I don't know. I don't know that I have had any strange fan encounters, because fans have always been kind to me. I mean, there are exceptions, but I tend to think that they're not fans. But people who have any sense of me have been really kind and thoughtful and mindful of what they know about me. So there's other things where the attentions that you get of people who aren't fans but know that you're famous, and they could be quite brutal sometimes. I remember very early on, I think I might have been in Yazoo or soon after Yazoo. I was walking in Basildon with somebody who'd wanted to do some film or some interview there, Or was I in Basildon? I seem to remember it being Basildon, but it might not have been Basildon. Anyway, a couple of lads had come up and asked me for my autograph, and this was a time when I found that cripplingly embarrassing, because I felt like, who the fuck are you to be signing? It's like you're still Alf from Basildon and you're signing. How jumped up are you to be giving your autograph to somebody? So it was crushingly, I felt ridiculous. I already felt ridiculous and embarrassed and ashamed. And they got the autographs, and I thought, it's really important for me not to be dismissive or rude to anybody, so I did it, and then they sort of like took it and they, tore it up and chucked it right in my face like this, and so it's like the triple shame of like, that's, again, that was my vanity for signing that autograph, but you can't win. I almost swore there. Yeah, but it was horrible, because I was such a kid, I was so young, and it was so alien to me, and I was trying to do the right thing. So that you get moments like that can make you really trepidatious. You get,
put your guard up, and
you put your guard up, and there have been other times, it's like, I think that's what I really loved about at the beginning of Twitter, is because I like people, and the one loss in my life was that feeling, because I got famous quite early on, of being able to do that, talking at the bus stop or over the garden fence, or being part of the local community, or still knowing my school friends and growing up with them and having our kids together and all that kind of stuff. It's like that felt like a really big loss to me. So then being on, when I was on Twitter, and then you could just have these little light conversations, so you're not having to take each other home, you're not having to take the weight of them, that you can share these gentlenesses with one another, but it's not more for you to take on board, too much more on board, so it was like there was a real innocence and a love to that. And then there was I had one interaction with one person who just then started completely trolling me through love bombing. It was either love bombing or insulting me, and trolling me through the death of my parents. That was one of the most traumatic experiences, and that broke it a little bit for me, because then I lost that innocence of, oh, we're just,
so
I
Twitter's
see
more transactional now.
Yeah, because it was like, you forget, and also you had a smaller platform, but you forget how big your platform is. And so I'd be talking as somebody else, and then someone else, you can't say that because of your platform. And then it goes back into, I can't be like everybody else, and that's not my choice, but because I'm not seen like everybody else, and that's another moment of like, that's a real sadness. But yeah, on the whole, for fans, real fans, and I don't like to use the word fan because it seems disparaging. That's why I like to use the word supporter, because I like to think of us as being on a level, have been kind and considerate and careful with me, have been human, so I feel really blessed by that.
Yeah. There's been such loyalty for certain ones that have
been and just an understanding.
Yeah.
Do you mean just an understanding, and it's like, I don't expect everyone to like everything I do. No, I don't expect that. It's like I'm completely comfortable if I've got someone who's loved this 5 records and really doesn't like that one.
Yeah.
That's perfectly reasonable.
And it's more honest as well.
Well, it's honest, yeah, but you don't. But it's when it takes the tone of you should not be doing that. When it starts becoming coercive or controlling. When you start thinking, fuck me, I'm an old lady now. When do I earn? When do I earn the right to do for me? It's like I have, have my own agency. Yeah, absolutely. It's like I've been careful with these people I don't know. Then I've had to be careful with my family. I've had to be careful with my children. I have to be careful with my grandchild. When do I turn around and say, you know what? I ain't doing it, or I am doing it, and having someone say, well, that's fair enough, I don't like it, as opposed to you should not be doing it, which I find that gets my back up. That gets my back up.
He is a lovely fan. Lloyd Morgan's in Rochester. I love the song Satellite from the album Essex. It's so full of emotion and makes my body tingle, but I have no idea what it's about.
No, and I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, poor Lloyd. I thought I'd try for you.
Yeah, well, bless you. The thing is, when sometimes, well, actually it's not because sometimes I've become more clear with my language, but certainly on the early records, when certain songs sometimes seemed a bit obtuse or a bit opaque, it's because they were dealing with personal issues that I it's kind of like your own way of sorting stuff out in your own head, and it's a way of kind of speaking your anger to someone that you'd never speak your anger to, because I see no merit in, if you're hurting somebody else, it doesn't make you feel better. So I don't ever, if there's one good thing I can say about me, if I was going to compliment, is I'm not vindictive. I think that's one character trait, that I'm not vindictive, and I have no interest in revenge or retribution, but within that means then I have to have a platform where I can get things off my chest without being specific or pointing them at any person.
Mandy Miller in Nottingham. In 40 Moyet Moments, there are at least a couple of occasions where you comment positively on your pleasure of being part of a community collective. Southend United FC, got it right that time, and Chicago the Musical.
Yeah.
And perhaps your anonymous experience of your degree course.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on whether something other than a largely solo career might have been more pleasurable for you? So I guess it's like, would you have been in a band for 42 years? Would you have preferred that?
I think, knowing the tricky character that I've been, and when I say tricky, that doesn't, but it doesn't mean, I'm not saying malicious or bad or anything like that. I just know that I'm complicated. So, and strange anxieties can present themselves at odd times. I think it would have been unlikely that I would have maintained a long history with the band, because I would have fucked somebody off. I can be quite an intense. I'm much better now as an old lady. I'm much better, but when I was younger, like a big overthinker. A criticism that would be made of me by people that love me is you spend too much time in your own head. And so that's, I can end up with this kind of circular stuff, and then all the social anxiety, and then also the background that I came from, which is this quite, up front, we would shout and scream, we could have like conversations like this, because this is this kind of, this French culture, this French peasant culture, and I use that word advisedly because my dad would call himself that, so I'm not kind of being Larry, but there was a lot of this kind of aggression. And it's completely benevolent. There's nothing behind it. There's no kind of hate or bitterness or spite. There's none of that, because it all comes out, and people find that problematic. And then also, if you're the lead singer, or if you're the front of a band, or if other people perceive you to have the power, even when obviously you do have the power, but you're not aware of it. You're not thinking that way. Then you could spend a lot of time thinking, God, I'm really fast, I'm really quick, because no one's got a comeback. And I'd be completely prepared to have a comeback, but it was much later that I understood they didn't feel they could. They didn't feel they could, because it's like I'm the boss, and you think,
hierarchy.
It's a hierarchy that you're not even aware that you're a part of. You just think that you're super quick at everything. Because I'm used to people, I say I grew up in a family where that would have come back at me. So anyway, I think that I was certainly in my younger years hard work, and so I think that a band would have imploded quite quickly.
Catherine from Newton Abbott, I'm going to give this one a go. I can see where it's going though. Is Ordinary Girl based on anyone you know? But she says, looking forward to seeing you in Birmingham and Bath on the tour.
Oh, lovely. So now I've got to go back to no. So no, that song isn't. In fact, a lot of the stuff around rain dancing was there's very little in rain dancing that's actually biographical. That was one album, bizarrely, because I wrote that with Rick Driscoll and Jess Bailey, as I remember, in the whole, and it was kind of one of the last times that I kind of wrote songs without second guessing myself. That was like a really, it was just like we were writing songs, and I didn't really have any sense of pressure on myself. I was selling lots of records, so I wasn't really getting pressure from anyone else. So that was kind of the last time that it was, the writing the songs was kind of easy, but even though the whole experience of recording the album turned out to be something quite difficult. And probably those songs are the ones that resonate with me the least for that reason, because I don't find myself in them. Although I do think Ordinary Girl is actually a really good song, academically, in the sense if I was a songwriter, so I'm going to write a song and I wrote Ordinary Girl, I think, yeah, it's a good song. So it's a songwriter's song as opposed to an artist's song. Or the way that it was conceived as opposed to how someone could turn it into.
Another question from Facebook. Mark says, is there artwork on a single or CD you think of fondly from back in the day? Back or fondly? Or, this handwriting. Or one that makes you cringe? I remember one of a picture of your parents.
Oh yeah, no, I love that.
Yeah,
that was and what's interesting, funny enough, I don't know if you're going to find it interesting, but they were photographed on a motorbike on a street, and that street is it's like a little hamlet in the Sharon, where my family have lived in the same road since before Napoleon, and my second cousin still lives on that street now. Every generation on that road. So no, I love that picture. I really liked the photograph on the Hoodoo album. I really liked that. I'm not trying to remember my albums. I came up with the concept for the artwork in Essex, so I like that. The Alf album, I didn't particularly like the artwork on that, and I think I've explained it in the podcast about why I felt so self-conscious about even having an opinion on it. The Rain Dancing album, it was a bit meh. And what else was there? I'm trying to think what other albums.
Others a really lovely portrait.
Is it? What have I got? What am I doing?
You're doing that against the red background, yeah.
Is it the kind of grey black and white one?
Red.
Was it red?
Yeah.
See? Oh, other. Yeah. Other. I was thinking before that. Yeah, no. On the whole, I mean, there's just a couple that I don't like. It was more around the Alf stuff, and like I say, that's because all I can do is pity the poor me that was feeling really anxious about it. And the only other wish that I would have had is that we didn't always have to have pictures of ourselves on it. On a sleeve. I get really bored with a kind of like, you have to have a kind of a portrait picture, and then you say that everyone has to have a portrait, otherwise they don't know it's you. But that's kind of, so when I did, in fact, when I was doing this, when I did this artwork, and this is something that I did with a kind of portrait of me and kind of worked the rest up, and so that was my way of kind of compromising. They insist that I'm in the picture, but then I could kind of have a greater story, and there is a kind of greater story, even if I don't describe it to you. It's very convoluted what's gone on in here, but it all means there's all kind of like motifs and things in there that are significant to me in my life. But anyway, I really like that sleeve, and I like the fact that I'm on it, so they're not going to
I think you explain it as well on the Key
Moyet
edition, which out on Friday.
Oh, yeah, check the Key Moyet. Do I do that?
Yeah, I think so.
See, that's why it's good that Steve here. I can't even remember what I spoke about last week.
Where are we? Returning to... here's a good one. So returning to the question that Daniel in Madrid had asked already, and Nick Novak asks, so two people asked the same question. The Minutes and the Turn were critically acclaimed and extremely well received albums. Would you like to work with Guy Sigsworth again?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Guy in so many ways is my perfect foil. We and I say that for me, so am I squeaking my chair too much? I'm squeaking too much. He's like the perfect foil for me to work with, and we've never had this discussion, so he might be going, Alison Moyet. I don't know, but I don't think so. But because it was really comfortable working with him. Everything about it was comfortable working with him. His enthusiasm, his artistry, his skill, his musicality. It's just sublime, and and his personality worked really well for me. We're both kind of a little bit odd in our own ways, and so there wasn't that kind of thing where you're looking at someone, you could see it all happening in their eyes, or they're going freak. And to be fair, he's much, he's much better socially assimilated than I am. He's better at that, But it just worked really well. He was just open to my every suggestion, and we just didn't edit one another. I think it was I can't even remember a time that we really edited one another. I never came up with something that he turned around and went, He'd always look into it, he'd always look into it. And so, yeah, and I would have made, that's what had I not gone and done university and they had to come straight into this 40th because I really wanted to tour. The other thing I'm aware of is that, you know, time is running out, and any day I could wake up and find I can't sing anymore. That, you know, and that's not me going, you know, because it's like, it's all right, I've had a good run. But any day that could happen. But, you know, the chance it's going to happen is only going to get more and more close if I don't get out there now. So I don't know, you know, and I'm not sitting there talking about retirement from live work, but you don't know what's going to happen. I might never ever get on the road again. This could really be my last shout. I don't know. So the fact that I knew that I wanted to sing live, and the fact that it tied in with my 40th, and reason my 40th birthday, my 40th anniversary. The reason why that's significant is because in a day and age where it's really tough to put on music, you know, because of Brexit and all the carne stuff that now has kind of come into it, and because money's tight for people and all that kind of stuff, it's hard to put a tour on. And so the promoters didn't, certainly for an act like me, feel comfortable about putting a tour on sale without a record to support it. So the live was the significant thing to me, and it tied in with the 40th. That made complete sense, and the fact that I only had 2 weeks to write any new songs before I started recording after finishing my degree meant that this was the route that I was going to take. But when this is done, then I will probably be knocking at his door. We were almost at it. We were almost going to get in there, and then it just, you know, just life took over.
Talking about time running out, we've got less than 15 minutes left.
And never you got a bajillion questions left?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try. I'm sorry, I'll try to keep it short.
David Simpson.
Oh, Jesus, I'm sorry. I told you, you usually have to tell me to stop talking. You did, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm giving you the look.
You did.
You're
try.
not looking at me, though.
No, I'm not looking at you. I haven't got my glasses on.
David Simpson from London. David Simpson, you've touched on collaborations during the podcast. How did your collaboration with Ocean Colour Scene come about? You did backing vocals on Giving It All Away on their debut album, 1992. David says, I always found it a great pairing around the Essex era.
Yeah, they're nice, they're lovely boys, you know, they're really lovely boys, and I think that for a short while we had the same management, which is how we got introduced to one another. And then Debbie, who was my manager, ended up going out with one of them for a while, so we made for a little friendship group. And then because, you know, and then I tried to help them out a couple of times, give them a few gigs like that. They did a couple of sessions for me, I did a couple of sessions for them, and then, you know, time moves on, their band took off, and they were running, and I was kind of elsewhere. So it was just like a little moment in time, and I haven't seen them for years and years, and that's, you know, that's all right, because some things belong to the time. But all I know is they were lovely boys. You know, we had some fun time together, and then our lives branched elsewhere. Yeah.
Vince Liaguno, Vince Liaguno from Troy, Michigan, which is about 20 minutes northwest of Detroit.
Yes.
He supplies information. Of all the places you've travelled to, which country seems to embrace your new music versus hankering for the hits? Can't wait to see you in Detroit. Yes, putting that out there in the universe. You might be in luck, Vince. I might have said too much there.
Oh, bless. So now that this is when because this is where I wish I had my blog, because that I wrote on live. It does tend to be England that does
Scotland.
that. England and Scotland, because I have a greater presence here. Obviously, I'm here, and so for you know, it's easier for people to keep an eye on me. But in terms of abroad, G, can you think what places have been? I'm trying to think.
Germany's good. Germany.
Yeah, Germany can be really good. You know, Amsterdam is good, and there are places in America that have been really good. I mean, San Francisco's been great, and New York as well, I think.
Yeah.
So places in America and I believe Canada as well. So yeah, it's places where, you know, I've had a record company that's still prepared to plug me. That's what I think.
Cool. David Ryan sent us, I love the Turn album and wholeheartedly agree it has great songs on it. If Cooking Vinyl financed a re-recording of it, who would you like to produce it?
Oh God,
so
that's...
Cooking Vinyl suddenly looked
First of all, I can't get past the fact that Cooking Vinyl will never finance it. So it's almost like this. It's kind of like, I wouldn't kind of go into that dream, because that's one thing I'm good at. I'm really good at being pragmatic. So I don't dream after things I can't have.
Shame. Jean Finch from Australia,
Yes.
who is seldom seen.
Yes, I haven't seen you.
Thank you for sharing your moments. It's been brilliant. So many episodes have me gasping in outrage at the treatment of you and your music.
Oh, bless.
Did your family ever get involved with advice or stronger suggestions?
Fucking shut up, Anna!
No, and I think what I really like, I mean, my family, before I kind of got into the music industry, we didn't even know lawyers or accountants, or none of us dealt in business. They're all manual workers. Well, my mum was a French teacher, but did not help me.
More than we.
And for me, because again, without kind of wanting to say anything about the trauma that I felt, but being famous, I found so anxiety creating that it was really important when I was at home to really be a part of the family and to maintain my place in the family, which was bottom of the pile. So it's like I wouldn't let anyone talk about work at home. I wouldn't discuss work with them. I wouldn't let them put my records on when I was around. I wouldn't watch myself on television with them. I wouldn't have any of my work pictures on the wall. It's like I just wanted to be Alison, the youngest child of this family. So no, and they wouldn't have known. And also, your parents, I know it now as a parent, worry for you so much that you'd really try and protect them. And a couple of really horrible things happened, did happen. And then when your parents were exposed to it, your mother who loves you and wants nothing, and you just see her crushed by it or her crying, it's like, it's a double shame. Not only do you feel humiliated by that happening, but then you're looking at someone you love being hurt by this position that you're in. So no, I always try to keep any of that stuff away from them. I didn't want them involved in it at all.
Bradley Gilbert from South London says, in the Moyet Moments podcast, you said that you're scared of a simplistic lyric. What is it about them that worries you? Is there vulnerability in being too direct?
I think it's possible there's a vulnerability in being too direct, but there's also a possibility that I worry I'm going for the easy word, which I don't know. I don't know if scared of them is, but I'm leery of them. It's like I might go down. Sometimes when you talk about really sometimes there's like really lightweight pop that you can all sit there and go, I could write that. I could write that. That's so easy. I could write that. And I remember Pete Glenister saying to me, which was really significant, he goes, what you've got to remember is the people that write this really like it. They're not being cynical. I'm sure that some are, but a lot of them genuinely like that music, which you have to admire. So they're not being disingenuous. And for me, because when I think in words, I'm not a kind of like a classically romantic person. In the sense that's kind of been too knocked out of me. I'm too much of a cynic, and I'm so far beyond needing other people to validate me or to be disappointed by the fact that they don't. I'm so far down that line that I don't think of those words, and so when I use them, then I'm being disingenuous. Then I'm kind of going for a simplicity, and in that thinking, this will be an easy song for people to sing along to. And straight away, that's me disengaging with whatever it is that makes me write, which is what I said to you before about it's the way that I process things. It's the way that I get stuff out and say the words that can't be said.
From Facebook, Graham Lewis, it's a bit premature, but if Key sells well, would you consider doing a Key 2?
A Key 2?
For the songs that you
I would, but that won't happen. It won't sell well. It won't sell well because records don't sell well unless you take Swift. And of course, there are other kind of big mainstream acts which I am not. The very fact that I'm 63 and have been able to make a record and that we're talking about it here is such a strangeness in itself that happens to so few women. So that in itself is an incredible event, but no, there's no label that's going to say, I'll tell you what, let's give you some money to make a record of songs that no one wanted to hear the first time. And that's the issue. So the only hope that I can have, the only dream that I can have is that someone with a great profile will choose one of those songs, like I say from Turn, and will sing it, and then everyone will be able to hear that it's a great song because it wasn't me that did it. And that's the truth of it. And I don't say that with any, because it's like, come on, Mo. It's like I say, I'm still here. I've still had the most ridiculous luck, and for longer than anyone could have expected. So I say that just as a real fact. There's no pain or sorrow that goes with that at all, not remotely.
2 questions left.
David, was it 2 that we literally have got 2 left and you're not having to cut any out?
No, I've got 2 pages where I thought we're completely cutting out. And loads of people, but 2 questions because we've got time.
Oh, can't we do more than that? Can't we just extend? Because I don't want to cut anyone out because I've been wittering.
Yeah, but
they can always turn off if they're fed up, can't they?
No, but there's people have got homes to go to.
Oh, here? Well, I've got further to travel than the rest of you. Actually, no.
You don't.
You're not staying in London. We're wasting time.
Sorry.
Read the question.
David Hanna from Edinburgh says, during the Sony debacle, you recorded Skipping Stone with King Brit.
Yeah.
How did the collaboration come about, and how did it feel to have something released when you were stuck in your impasse with Sony?
Oh, I really loved that track, and that was going back to what I said about being in the right place at the right time, and actually that was at home. But I would get sent these tracks by lots of really interesting acts, and some really big, really cool acts, which I've already told you. I'm not going to tell you who they are. And obviously Brit's, he's really cool, but he's great, and but he's not like wasn't a mainstream name, a very hit name in England, but not a mainstream name. But anyway, so literally he just sent me over a track. He just sent me over a track of music, and I was in that frame of mind. So I just put it on my what the old kind of machine, the old
Porter Studios.
Porter Studios. I thank you. See, do you see what happens? So I just put it into my Porter Studio, and then just wrote the song to the track exactly as it was. So the track wasn't even edited. It wasn't even like cut up and we'll use this bit, we'll use that bit. I just wrote the song to the track, sent it back. He loved it. I can't remember if we were in America or he said just come over to Detroit and do it. We just went over there and recorded it, and then that was that.
We should say hello to King Brit because he's always sending
he's
messages through.
He's a lovely, charming fella.
Indra Joyce from Glasgow has written, we all have that one song that really hits us in the feels, that personal song. For me, it's Remind Yourself. It is so close to my life story it hurts. What song and by whom is it for you?
Well, I mean, so many of those songs I've said to you before are written about my life or my experience, or I've started from kernels again, because sometimes you start with this one thought that is very much based in the now, today and the now, but then it goes on a flight of fancy. I suppose there are 2 songs, and one for me is Other, which is like that to me is as close to the raw underbelly of me as you'll find. And the other one is the outro of Can't Say It Like I Mean It, that I can listen to the outro and I feel my throat catch just listening to it. So when you find yourself, your eyes filling up listening to yourself sing, I mean that's a vanity, but it doesn't happen often, but it does on that song. And I think because those lines, as simple as they are, and they are simple words, so there's nothing kind of convoluted about that, in this repetitive way, like you say with Remind Yourself, when you're keeping this thought going, it is so true. It's it's such a truism, and it is something you need to do. You need to come to terms with that. You should know better.
And the version on key is just exquisite.
Yeah, I really like that. I really like that song. Like I say, it's it's a rarity that I can move myself. It really is a rarity. And like I say, with the song Other and that song, I am moved because they are so painfully true.
Yeah, yep. Enough time to do a couple more? Do it quickly. Quinn in Australia, former competition winner, says your glorious laugh at the start of Situation is said to be the most sampled 84 plus times in music history, including the ubiquitous 96 Macarena. What are your thoughts on this and people using your voice on another track?
Well, it's funny because, you know, I would have known about a couple of them, but on the most they've sampled them without telling me. So you hear them at the. In fact, I can't even remember a time I was actually asked. George, you might remember if you were asked, but on the whole, they just kind of take it as it's not a part. I'm not overly uptight about it. I mean, if the record's really wanky, I'd rather not be on there. But like I say, I don't really listen much, so I can't say it really bothers me.
Jason Brady in Florida in the US says, I'm loving the podcast. Can I just say I am pissed off at Sony, the shitty A&R guys, Moby, and anyone that's made your career harder. I think I love Alison even more after learning all the details. My question is, will there be a memoir or autobiography at some point with all the tea?
Well, I have been offered £1 bajillion to make one, to write one. But for me, it always comes down to the fact that when you write a memoir, you centre yourself in the middle of a lot of people's lives that have no. So you take their agency away from them, and it's like, what right do I, in my arrogance, thinking that everybody else is like an extra in my life, you know? So I would not be exposing my kids. I would not be exposing my husband or any past relationships. I couldn't do that. And other than that, you know, the publishers, like I say, they just want my crash and burn stories. I've had journalists ask that, tell us the time about you crashed and burned, and you think, you ghoul. They, you know, so it's like they want to know about when you crashed and burned, and they want to know how you can show your face in public when you're a fat girl. It's honestly, it has not changed. 63, and it has not changed, and it's like, I'm so kind of over it. So it's like back to living in the moment, knowing that there's people on the other side of this camera who have cared enough to listen what I've got to say, and can agree or don't agree, can laugh with me or feel for me, and have bothered to listen to something that matters to me. Whether you end up liking it or not, the fact that you've done that, it means everything. So that afterwards, when I'm dead, it makes no fucking odds. Because, you know, it's like the one thing that you really do know, it's like I can do an interview. I'll do an interview with a geezer, and it's like a week later, he's got it wrong. A week later. And you think, if you cannot take that conversation from Brighton to London in a week and actually get what I've said right, yeah, what's the point? I found it fascinating. Sorry, I was going to say.
Keep going.
I found it fascinating when I was at university, like this whole thing about you have to cite essays, you know. And I've read so much utter bollocks about myself, you know. And it doesn't have to be nasty. It can just be wrong. Yeah. It can just be wrong. Just be incorrect about myself. And you think, my God, you know. And if this stuff was in the Times or the Guardian, and I wrote an essay, I could cite that, you know. I could cite that, and I could, and that could pass as as an acceptable citation for my, you know. But if I spoke in the first person and said I think, it's like no. And so I find it fascinating that I could write an essay about me, and I couldn't quote myself, but I could quote somebody else quoting me getting it wrong, and that would go down in history as being fact. So I have no. I have no. It's all a fiction. Yeah. It's all a fiction, and that's what's great about this is, you know, when I'm being an arsehole or when I'm not being an arsehole, I can't cover that up, and I'm comfortable with that because sometimes I am an arsehole, you know, and that's all right. You know, that's all right. I just want to be the arsehole that I am. I just don't want somebody else to do. I'm going like that. You see, I'm doing a sphincter. I don't want somebody else to be determining what arsehole that is. That's it, you know. Tony and Beverly. Oh God, I'm not going to be able to go back to Yorkshire now. Did you think about putting Only You as a track on the Key album? It would be amazing to listen to an updated version of this fantastic song. Looking forward to seeing you in New York. No, I mean Only You is on plenty of platforms already, and also this is solo album, and all the songs that are on it are songs that I've written or co-written. As I didn't write Only You, it has no, and it's not a part of my solo career. It's not the right platform for it.
Guy Bailey from Middlesbrough. Absolute Beginners is one of my favourite Bowie songs. Why did you choose to excellently cover that on the BBC Two Piano Room recently?
Because I was in the right place at the right time again. I was around at Sean's, and Sean just put it on, as sometimes happens, to punctuate the day. He might sort of like just put on a song, and there's something about that melody, and I think it's where it kind of goes off in that kind of lilting bridge that I could really hear myself on, And it's kind of, it's I've been kind of likened to Bowie a few times lately, and let me put that in. No one is saying that I have the genius of Bowie, and I'm not pretending to that whatsoever. We're in a different class, and we're in completely different leagues. I completely accept that. But what you can hear with me and Bowie, what I would think I hear that other people hear, is there are certain reference points. There are certain reference points where you can see that he has listened to chanson, and I grew up with chanson. And so, I read this funny review someone had written before talking about my vibrato getting slower, and sometimes it is getting slower, but that's an absolute choice. And I remember they'd read, I think it's because she's got older vibrato slow, it's because she can't, she's got, so she can't sing as fast as she did. And it's just so funny how people imagine that. It's like, they're stylistic choices, they're stylistic choices that you make. And so I have kind of got more in touch since about Home Time. I think I started getting more in touch with chanson. You'll hear a lot of that on the Home Time record. That it's a kind of an old genre that I appreciate in the way that some people will go back to early R&B or early soul music. That's their kind of reference points. For me, I'm going back to the music of my youth, which would have been chanson. That's the stuff that I would have heard in the house. And so I'm referencing that, and Bowie had a big romance with that, and you can kind of hear that in some of his singing. So that's where I think that people hear that, and within that song, I can hear that there was some of that reference going on in what he's written there, which suited my aesthetic, and was also going to be a easy song to learn quickly. Because the other thing is, it's like the anxiety. Because I hadn't sung for a couple of years, so I didn't know if I was going to be able to sing. I'd done it in the studio, but there's a different pressure singing live. And I knew it was one that I didn't want to be like that, or go like that, where I get so nervous that I forget the words, and it was something that it was containable. But I'm really glad I did that song. I was so pleased with those sessions. It was just like such a
great
brilliant.
response.
And even forgetting, the response was great, but before getting a great response, you have to feel good about what you did, because there's times I've had a great response where I listen back and go, fuck me, oh shit. And so it doesn't matter how many great responses you get, if you can hear your own failure within it, it doesn't make it better.
Yeah.
Great responses when you feel really good about something, that's different. Sorry, I hit the table, I know. It's a different kettle of fish. And so because I really loved it, the responses would have been very welcome.
And speaking of chanson, let's go to this final question, which stays on that theme. Georgie of Southend writes, one of my all-time favourite tracks is the live version of Numikita Pa from Wembley 1987. Have you ever considered recording an album in French?
I have, but funny enough, I don't know that the French particularly like me singing in French. And that's because, again, I remember, I can't remember where it was, but they were looking for an English artist that could sing French, and someone said, Alison Moyet, she can sing French, and they played it, oh no. And I think that was because, again, I'm referencing a kind of an old style of singing, and they're talking, a lot of their pop songs, and that sounds really reductive, doesn't it? But so my style of singing doesn't really, it certainly doesn't suit a lot of the pop market, and France bizarrely is one country that really hasn't taken to me. That I'm not popular in France. It's like people say come to Paris. It's like, well, I did, and only 10 people came. Which is kind of funny because I'm a French national. But then at the same time, that's been a bit of a blessing because that means I can go on holiday in France, as I have done all the time, and nobody knows who I am, which is lovely. So I like that. I do like singing in French, but again, you know, in my family, there's like a real, you know, Brel is on a serious pedestal, and I remember when I did a chanson de vieux amants, when I did that, and I remember saying to my mum, I played it, I said, you know, what do you think, Mum? She goes, well, you know Brel, are you? I'm kind of, you know, I'm beyond the age where I could sit there and say what I fancy doing in the future, because I don't have a sense of great future. I have a good future. I just mean I don't have a sense that my career has years to live. You know, I'm very much aware that I'm on borrowed time,
So catch me while you can.
I'm afraid our time is up.
Oh no!
Thank you, Alison. For
Did you have? I'm so sorry if I do rabbit on. I'm so sorry to rabbit on, and that some questions will have been missed. And I hope that there wasn't anything that was significant, or maybe we can do another one.
Yeah. That
we can come back to it to get back on.
Or even do a pre-record or something like that.
Yeah, we could do a minute's moment, couldn't we, to get over those questions?
A minute's moment.
A moment's minute.
Minutes.
A moment's minute.
A Marty moment.
A minute. We could do a minute for a moment, couldn't we? We could do that. We could do a podcast where we could do maybe other questions.
Yes.
I'd like to do that, because I'm so sorry that I've missed what I've missed, and because
and because I'm not allowed to look at live ones.
You are allowed to look at live ones. No, it's just because I do know that I go down rabbit holes. But you want the authentic self to come to work. Well, hello. You know, careful what you wish for.
I have a little bit of housekeeping to do before we go.
Ooh.
On Thursday, the 40 Moyet Moments podcast will drop as normal, episode 34.
Oh, what were we talking about?
Interested? Rare and Obscured at Ronnie Scott's. You didn't remember at all?
I didn't know.
No, not at all.
I went, oh.
It was more obscured than rare.
It was more obscured than rare. Well, they're not listening, aren't they? Now you said I've got nothing to say about it.
No, but then we found something.
Oh, then I found something to talk, but probably something completely different.
As most of the ones end up being. But then we're going to pause 40 Moyet Moments for a week. Because of a little thing, you know, the release of Alison's 10th solo album, Key, available to pre-order in a range of amazing colour vinyl, CDs and cassettes. And if you're missing a regular chat with Alison, I'm going to give a cheeky plug for Key, Moyet Moments Edition, which has over 2.5 hours of chat with Alison and the record's producer, Sean, interspersed with 18 tracks. It'll be available to own. You can be able to. I've been really good.
Oh, you can own it.
Yeah, you can.
You can have me with Sean and you as bonus.
Yes,
thank you. So they can own that.
Yeah, own it as a digital download, or you can stream it so that you can.
So that you can. What kind of?
I've got tired.
I don't care.
I can only do an hour.
Wake up, youngster.
And you can check it out if you're missing a podcast, blah blah blah. You can check it out on streaming platforms on Friday as well.
On Friday.
Everything happens on Friday.
Everything happens on Friday.
Yes. Thank you everyone for joining us.
Yeah.
And until next time, good night.
Thank you so much for coming, for being, well, you haven't come here, but thank you so much for being there and listening and for waiting for us to turn up. So I hope to see you on the road, and if I don't see you, you'll see me.